Admiral Yoon stood before the massive chamber, his hands clasped behind his back. The Galactic Council Hall stretched above him like a cathedral made of light and metal. Thousands of alien beings sat in curved rows, their eyes fixed on the small human delegation below. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had features Yoon could not even describe. After 50 years of probationary membership, Earth had finally earned the right to request full admission to the Council. Dr. Hannah Kim stepped forward with a datapad in her hands. She was Earth's leading scientist, and today she would present humanity's achievements to the galaxy. Her voice echoed through the chamber as she spoke about the 12 peaceful colonies humans had built. She showed them the new fusion reactors that could power entire cities. She talked about the medical advances that had saved millions of lives across different species. Captain Giho Park watched from the side, his military uniform perfectly pressed. He had commanded 3 deep space missions and had always followed the Council's rules. Never once had human ships caused trouble. Never once had they threatened another species. He felt proud of what his people had accomplished. But something felt wrong. Yoon could see it in the way the council members whispered to each other. He noticed how Counselor Vexter, a tall reptilian being with cold yellow eyes, kept shaking his head. The creature's scales seemed to shimmer with barely hidden anger. When Dr. Kim finished her presentation, the chamber fell silent. High Chancellor Morden rose from the central platform. The crystalline being's body refracted light in rainbow patterns as it moved. Its voice came out like wind chimes, translated instantly into every language. "Hey, the Council has reviewed Earth's application," Morden said. The words seemed to hang in the air. "We have deliberated carefully on this matter." Yoon felt his heart beating faster. This was the moment they had worked toward for half a century. The Council has decided to deny Earth's application for full membership. Yes. The words hit like a physical blow. Yoon saw Dr. Kim's face go pale. Captain Park's jaw tightened. But Morden was not finished. Furthermore, humanity is hereby expelled from probationary status. All human colonies within Council space must be evacuated within 1 solar cycle. Humanity is quarantined to the Sol system. Any human vessel found beyond the designated barrier will be destroyed without warning. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered. Others looked shocked. Yoon felt rage building inside him, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier for 40 years. He knew how to control his emotions. Counselor Vexter rose, his tail sweeping the floor behind him. "Humans are too aggressive," he declared, his voice dripping with contempt. "Too unpredictable. Too dangerous. In merely 2 centuries of spaceflight, you have spread like a plague. Your technology advances too quickly. You do not respect the old ways." "We have broken no laws," Yoon said, his voice steady and strong. "We have harmed no one. We have honored every treaty." "That is precisely what makes you dangerous," another council member said. "A being that looked like flowing water held in a containment field. You are too adaptable. Too creative. You solve problems in ways we cannot predict. This makes you a threat to galactic stability." Dr. Kim stepped forward, her scientific mind trying to find logic in the situation. "If we have done nothing wrong, how can you punish us? This is not justice. This is fear. Call it what you will," Vexter hissed. "The decision is final. Leave council space or be removed by force." Yoon looked around the chamber. He saw some aliens who looked uncomfortable with the decision. A few even looked sympathetic. But they said nothing. They would not risk their own positions to defend humanity. Later, in their private chambers, Dr. Kim worked furiously on her computer. "I intercepted some of their communications," she said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "They've been planning this for months. They fear us because our technology is developing differently from theirs. We don't copy their methods. We create our own solutions. In another century, they think we might surpass them." Captain Park slammed his fist on the table. "So they banish us? After everything we've done to prove ourselves?" "They're afraid," Dr. Kim said. "And fear makes people do terrible things." Yoon stood at the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, their home. Somewhere out there were the millions of humans who had believed in the dream of joining the galactic community. How could he tell them they had been rejected not for what they had done, but for what they might become? The next day, they were called back for the official declaration. The council chamber felt colder now, more hostile. High Chancellor Morden read the formal decree, listing all the restrictions placed on humanity. They could not enter council space. They could not trade with council species. They were to be isolated, cut off from the galaxy. When Morden finished, Yoon asked for permission to speak. The Chancellor hesitated, then nodded. Yoon walked to the center of the chamber. He looked up at the thousands of alien faces staring down at him. He thought about all the humans who had died believing in this dream. He thought about the future his children would now face. "You have made a grave miscalculation," Yoon said, his voice clear and strong. "You think you are protecting yourselves by banishing us. You think you are preventing a threat? But you are wrong. You don't banish humanity. You unleash it." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We came here asking for friendship. We came offering cooperation. We came ready to learn and to share. You have rejected all of that. Fine, we will remember this day. We will remember how you treated us. And one day, when we meet again, it will be on very different terms." The council chamber erupted in angry shouts, but Yoon had already turned to leave. Dr. Kim and Captain Park followed him. As they walked out of the hall for the last time, Yoon felt something shift inside him. The disappointment was fading, replaced by something else. Determination, anger, purpose. They had asked for a place in the galaxy. They had been refused. Now they would take it. 15 years had passed since the Council's rejection. Chancellor Murray Song stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching holographic displays show the progress of humanity's greatest project. She was young for a world leader, only 42, but the past decade had aged her. The responsibility of leading humanity through its darkest time had left silver streaks in her black hair. "The latest colony ship is ready," Chief Engineer Taiho Choi reported. Pulling up a three-dimensional image of the massive vessel, it looked nothing like the ships humans had built before. Where council ships were smooth and curved, this one had angular lines and aggressive geometry. "We've incorporated the new quantum jump drive. It can bypass their blockade completely." Murray studied the design. How many can it carry? 20,000 colonists, plus equipment to establish a full industrial base within 3 years. Admiral Yoon entered the room, now 70 years old, but still standing, straight and strong. He had refused to retire, insisting he would see this through to the end. "The Council believes we're trapped in the Sol system," he said, a slight smile on his weathered face. "They have no idea we've already established 6 colonies in unclaimed space." Commander Sahi Kong appeared on the main screen, transmitting from somewhere far beyond Earth. She was humanity's top intelligence officer. And for the past 5 years, she had been making contact with non-council species. "I have news," she said, her voice distorted slightly by the long-distance transmission. "The Talvan people want to meet with us. They've been under council taxation for 3 centuries and they're tired of it." "How many species have we contacted now?" Murray asked. 47, Sahi replied. 32 are interested in some form of alliance. "The Council has made a lot of enemies over the millennia. They just keep it quiet because they're afraid." Ho pulled up another display, this one showing ship construction. "The first battle fleet is 60% complete. We have 140 warships in various stages of production, hidden in asteroid fields and moon bases throughout the outer system. The Council has no idea." Murray walked among the holographic displays, her mind processing the enormity of what humanity had built in just 15 years. When the Council had banished them, many had despaired, but she had seen it differently. She had seen an opportunity. "Show me the new weapon systems," she said. Taeho brought up technical specifications. "We've abandoned trying to copy Council technology. Instead, we went back to basics and developed our own principles. The result is weapons that are more powerful and more efficient. Our plasma cannons have twice the range of Council military-grade weapons. Our shields can absorb and redirect energy in ways their technology cannot match." A young pilot named Doyon Lee appeared on another screen. He was only 25, but he had become famous among the hidden colonies for his mapping expeditions. "Chancellor Song," he said, his excitement evident even through the transmission. "You need to see what I found." The display changed to show a star system unlike anything they had seen before. Ancient structures orbited a dead world, massive and clearly artificial. "These predate the Council by thousands of years," Doyan explained. "Maybe tens of thousands. The technology is far beyond anything the Council has, and I think I can access their databanks." Mireille felt her pulse quicken. "How many systems like this have you found?" "This is the 7th, Dojan said, "but this is the first one with intact technology. The others were just ruins. If we can understand what's here, if we can learn from it, it would change everything," Taiho finished. Admiral Yoon looked at Mireille. The Council built their power on the ruins of older civilizations. They hoarded that ancient knowledge and used it to maintain control. But they stopped exploring centuries ago. They became comfortable, lazy. "We've been desperate," Mireille said. "Desperate people work harder, think more creatively, take risks the comfortable never would." Sahi's face reappeared on the screen. "There's something else you should know. I've been hearing rumors from my contacts. The Council is not as unified as they pretend. At least 5 member species are unhappy with the ruling coalition. They see how resources are distributed, how decisions are made. It's not fair, and it's not equal." "Can we use that?" Mireille asked. "Possibly, but we need to be careful. If we push too hard, we could unite them against us again." Over the following months, the pace of development increased. Taiho's engineers completed the first dreadnought, a massive warship that dwarfed anything in the Council fleet. They named it Defiance. When Admiral Yoon took command of the ship for its maiden voyage, he felt something he had not felt in 15 years. Hope, meanwhile. Doyan and his team unlocked the secrets of the ancient ruins. The technology they found was incredible. Jump drives that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. Energy systems that could power cities for centuries. Weapons that could crack planets. But also knowledge about agriculture, medicine, and art from civilizations long dead. Dr. Hannah Kim, now retired from active service, worked with Doyan to translate the ancient data. "These civilizations fell because they became stagnant," she told Mireille one evening. "They stopped innovating, stopped exploring, stopped questioning. Just like the Council is doing now. History repeats itself," Mireille said. "Only if we let it," Hannah replied. The colonies grew. New Earth, the first settlement beyond the blockade, now had a population of 3 million. New Shanghai, New Lagos, New Solich, New World added to humanity's strength, and unlike the Council's colonies, which were exploited for resources and given little autonomy, human colonies were full partners. Each one elected its own government. Each one contributed to the collective defense and shared in the prosperity. Taiho stood in the shipyard, orbiting New Earth, watching construction crews assemble the 200th warship. "The Council has perhaps 5,000 ships," he told his assistant. "Old ships, with old technology. We have 200 new ones, but ours are better, much better. When the time comes, numbers won't matter as much as they think." Commander Sahi sent her most important message yet. "I've made contact with Ambassador Kelvin of the Tal species. They want formal talks about mutual defense. If we can bring them into an alliance, others will follow. The Council's monopoly on power is about to end." In his private quarters, Admiral Yoon recorded a message for posterity. 15 years ago, we were humiliated before the galaxy, told we were not good enough, told we were too dangerous. They were right to fear us, but not for the reasons they thought. They feared our weapons, our ships, our aggression. But those were never our real strengths. Our true power is our refusal to accept defeat, our ability to adapt, our drive to be better tomorrow than we were today. The Council banished us thinking we would fade away. Instead, we have become stronger than they could imagine, and we're just getting started. Chancellor Mireille looked at the updated star charts. Humanity now claimed territory in 17 systems, alliance partners in another 12, hidden bases and outposts scattered across unclaimed space. Population, 8 billion and growing fast. The council thought they had contained the threat. They had no idea they had created something far worse for them. Not an enemy, not a rival, but an alternative. A better way of doing things. And in the long run, that was more dangerous to their power than any weapon. Taiho approached her with the latest reports. The quantum jump drive is ready for mass production. We can have the entire fleet upgraded within 6 months. Murray nodded. Do it and begin Phase 2 of the Genesis Protocol. It's time to accelerate our timeline. Are we preparing for war? Taiho asked. We're preparing for the inevitable, Murray replied. The council can't ignore us forever. Empress Nari Kim looked out over the city of Novaterra from her palace balcony. The capital world of the human stellar empire stretched before her, a gleaming metropolis of towers that reached into the clouds. 30 years had passed since the council's banishment, and humanity had not just survived. It had built something magnificent. She was the daughter of Dr. Hannah Kim, who had stood before the council all those years ago. Her mother had passed away 5 years earlier, but not before seeing her daughter crowned as humanity's first empress. Nari had inherited her mother's brilliant mind and her father's political cunning. At 38, she ruled an empire of 47 star systems and 30 billion souls. Fleet Admiral Junho Ryu stood beside her, reviewing reports on his datapad. He commanded the Imperial Navy, a force of 400 warships that patrolled human space and protected the growing empire. The patrol routes are secure, he said. We've had no council incursions in 6 months. I think they're starting to understand we're not easy prey. Or they're planning something bigger, Nari said. She had learned never to underestimate her enemies. A chime sounded, and Ambassador Yuna Choi entered the room. She was humanity's chief diplomat to the Free Alliance, a coalition of 15 independent species who had rejected council authority to join with Earth. Empress, I have good news. The Velkin have agreed to share their medical technology with us. In exchange, we're providing them with our agricultural systems. Excellent, Nari said. How many species in the Alliance now? 15 confirmed members, with 8 more in negotiations. The Council is losing control, Empress. Species are tired of their rules, their taxes, their arrogance. What we've built here offers them something better. General Hansel Park, son of the legendary Captain Jiho Park, arrived for the daily military briefing. He commanded the Imperial Ground Forces, elite soldiers who had fought in a dozen liberation campaigns across the frontier. We've successfully freed the colony on Vega 7, he reported. The council garrison surrendered without a fight. The colonists there were being taxed at 70% of their production. They welcomed us as heroes, Nari smiled. That's the 4th colony this year. We're not conquering. We're liberating. That's an important distinction. The people understand that, Hansel said. Every world we free becomes a loyal ally. Every species we help becomes a friend. The council rules through fear. We lead through service. Seal Huang materialized on the holographic display, transmitting from deep within council space. She was the Empire's spy master, running networks of informants and agents throughout the galaxy. Empress, I have critical intelligence. The council is fracturing from within. At least 7 member species are secretly communicating with our representatives. They want out, but they're afraid of retaliation. What are they offering? Nari asked. Information, mostly. Military deployments, technology specifications, political rivalries. One species, the Korthon, has offered to sabotage council ships if we guarantee their protection. Agree considered this carefully. We can't just promise protection and abandon them if things go wrong. If we accept their help, we commit to defending them fully. It could mean war, Admiral Ryu said. War was always inevitable, Nari replied. The council won't allow us to exist indefinitely. They'll either negotiate or attack, and I don't think they're in a negotiating mood. The briefing continued for another hour, covering trade agreements, colony expansion, and military preparations. When it finally ended, Nari walked through the palace gardens, needing time to think. Her chief advisor, an elderly woman named Borum, joined her. You look troubled, Borum said. I'm building an empire, Nari replied. My mother fought for peace, for acceptance, for humanity to have a place among the stars. Now I'm preparing for war. Your mother would understand, Borum said gently. She lived long enough to see what you've accomplished. She was proud. The Council forced this situation, not you. You're protecting our people in the orbital shipyards above Novaterra. Chief designer Wu Jinkong oversaw the construction of the newest class of warship. The Indomitable was a super dreadnought, 5 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. It could carry a crew of 12,000 and had enough firepower to take on an entire council fleet by itself. Admiral Ru visited the shipyard to inspect the vessel. How long until she's ready? He asked Wujin. 3 months for final systems integration. Then another month of trials. She'll be ready before year's end. Good, because I think we're going to need her. Meanwhile, Ambassador Yuna traveled to the world of Talvos to meet with representatives from 3 species interested in joining the Free Alliance. The meeting hall was filled with aliens of various shapes and sizes, all listening as she explained what the Alliance offered. We don't demand tribute, she said. We don't impose laws from above. Each species governs itself. The Alliance exists for mutual defense and cooperation. When one of us is threatened, all of us respond. When one of us makes a discovery, all of us benefit. This is not empire by conquest. This is community by choice, Talvin Elder spoke up. And if the Council attacks us for joining you, then the full strength of the human navy will defend you, Yuna said simply. We've made that promise to 15 species already, and we've kept it every time. 3 months ago, the Council tried to punish the Drexen for trading with us. Admiral Ru's fleet arrived within 6 hours. The Council ships withdrew without firing a shot. The Elder nodded slowly. We will consider your proposal. Back on Novaterra, Iseal's agents sent another report. They had infiltrated a Council strategy session and recorded the entire meeting. Nari watched the recording with her advisors, listening as Council members argued about the human problem. Councillor Vexther, now ancient but still hateful, demanded immediate military action. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. Now they have allies, ships, weapons. If we don't act soon, it will be too late. But other Council members disagreed. An attack on humanity would unite their entire alliance against us. That's 47 human systems plus 15 alliance members. We'd be fighting a war on multiple fronts. And we negotiate, another Council member suggested. Never. Vexther shouted. We do not negotiate with inferiors. The recording ended. Nari looked at her advisors. They're divided. That's good for us. As long as they're arguing among themselves, they won't attack. General Hansel spoke up. But eventually, someone will win that argument. We need to be ready for either outcome. Agreed, Nari said. Double our ship production. Expand recruitment for the ground forces. And Iseal, I want eyes and ears in every Council world. If they decide to attack, I want advance warning. Over the following weeks, the Empire's growth accelerated. New colonies were established. New alliances were formed. New technologies were developed. The ancient ruins that Doyan had discovered years ago continued to yield secrets, each one making humanity stronger. Admiral Ru's flagship, the Indomitable, completed its trials ahead of schedule. Standing on the bridge of the massive ship, he felt a surge of pride. 30 years ago, humanity had been humiliated and cast out. Now they commanded a fleet that rivaled the Council itself. A transmission came in from the frontier. A Council patrol had stumbled upon one of the human outposts in what they thought was unclaimed space. They were demanding the humans evacuate immediately. Ru made a decision. Dispatch the Third Fleet. I want those Council ships gone within the hour. Third Fleet arrived and surrounded the Council patrol. The Council commander, faced with 30 human warships, each more advanced than his own, chose wisdom over pride. He withdrew. But the encounter had been recorded. Within days, the footage spread throughout Council space. Everyone could see it. The humans were no longer hiding. They were no longer afraid. They had built an empire, and they were ready to defend it. Councillor Vexther watched the footage with growing fury. The creatures he had dismissed as primitives now commanded ships that made his own fleet look obsolete. The species he had banished had built something that challenged Council dominance. His worst fears had come true, and it was too late to stop it. The ultimatum arrived on a cold morning. Empress Nari Kim read it 3 times, making sure she understood every word. The Galactic Council demanded that humanity dismantle its empire, surrender its fleet, and return to the Sol system. They had 1 month to comply, or the Council would use military force. She called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. Fleet Admiral Junho Ryu, General Hansel Park, Ambassador Yuna Choi, and Spy Master Iseo Wang all gathered in the war room deep beneath the palace. The holographic star map showed the disposition of forces on both sides. "We're sending 600 ships," Iseo reported. "It's the largest fleet the Council has assembled in 3 centuries. They're pulling ships from every corner of their territory." "And our strength?" Nari asked. 400 capital ships, plus another 200 support vessels, Admiral Ryu said. "We're outnumbered, but our ships are superior in every measurable way." General Hansel studied the map. "They're planning to hit us in 3 waves. First wave attacks our outer colonies to draw out our fleet. Second wave strikes our industrial centers. Third wave heads for Novaterra itself." "Classic Council tactics," Ryu said. "Overwhelming force, traditional strategy. They haven't changed their approach in centuries because they've never needed to. No one has ever seriously challenged them." Nari stood and walked to the star map, her finger tracing potential battle lines. "We could negotiate. Offer them some concessions in exchange for peace." "They won't accept," Yuna said quietly. "I've been in contact with moderate council members. The hardliners have won. Vexther and his faction have convinced the majority that we're an existential threat. They won't stop until we're destroyed, or we destroy them." Nari nodded slowly. She had known this day would come. 30 years of building, preparing, hoping that war could be avoided. But some conflicts were inevitable. "Then we give them our answer." She composed a message, one that would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. When she appeared on screens throughout Council space, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen. "To the Galactic Council," she began, her voice calm but firm. 30 years ago, you banished us because you feared what we might become. You were right to fear, but not for the reasons you thought. We asked for peace. We asked for friendship. We asked for a place among the stars. You gave us exile, so we built something better than you ever offered. We built an empire founded on freedom, cooperation, and respect. Now you demand we destroy what we've created. Our answer is simple. No." She paused, letting the words sink in. "We will not dismantle our empire. We will not surrender our ships. We will not abandon our allies. If you want war, come and try to take what we've built. But know this: we are not the species you cast out 3 decades ago. We have grown. We have learned. We have become stronger than you can imagine. This is your last chance to choose peace. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. The galaxy held its breath. 3 weeks later, the Council fleet arrived at the border system of New Horizon. The battle began at dawn, local time. 600 Council ships emerged from jump space, their weapons charging, their shields at maximum. They expected to overwhelm the defenders quickly. What they found instead was Admiral Ryu waiting for them with 200 ships arranged in a formation they had never seen before. His flagship, the Indomitable, held the center position, a massive fortress in space. The Council commander opened a channel. "Surrender now, and your crews will be spared." Ryu's response was cold. "Come and take us." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. The Council fleet attacked in traditional formation, a massive wall of ships advancing together. Ryu split his fleet into 3 groups and attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Admiral Minho Bay, Ryu's second command, led the vanguard in a daring strike that broke through the Council's front line. His ships used the new quantum jump drives to appear behind enemy formations, attacking from unexpected directions. Council ships designed for frontal assault were vulnerable from the rear. Human weapons proved devastatingly effective. Plasma cannons with twice the range of Council weapons tore through enemy shields. Missiles swarms overwhelmed point defense systems. Electronic warfare packages jammed Council communications and targeting systems. But the Council had numbers. For every human ship that was damaged, 3 Council ships moved to surround it. The battle turned into a brutal slugging match. Ships exploded. Escape pods launched into space. The void between stars became a graveyard. Captain Jiang Xin led her fighter squadron on what everyone thought was a suicide mission. Her target was the Council command carrier, a massive ship at the heart of their formation. 60 fighters against a vessel 10 kilometers long, protected by hundreds of point defense weapons. Her squadron weaved through the battlefield, dodging fire from capital ships and enemy fighters. One by one, her pilots were shot down. 20 fighters became 10. 10 became 5. 5 became 3. But they kept going, driven by determination and skill. Gilm herself made the final run. Her fighter damaged in leaking atmosphere. She fired every missile she had, then rammed her ship into the command carrier's bridge section. The explosion tore through the carrier's command center, killing the Council admiral and throwing their entire fleet into confusion. With the command structure broken, Admiral Ru pressed his advantage. Human ships regrouped and struck at the disorganized Council fleet with surgical precision. Minho led attacks on enemy supply ships, cutting off ammunition and fuel. Without coordination, the Council fleet began to falter. When the battle finally ended, after 18 hours of continuous fighting, the numbers told the story. The Council had lost 400 ships. Humanity had lost 80, but the cost was heavy. 8,000 human sailors had died. Tens of thousands more were wounded. Captain Jiang Xin was among the dead. Posthumously declared a hero of the Empire, Admiral Ru stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the debris field around him. Send rescue teams for survivors, ours and theirs, and prepare a full report for the Empress. The Battle of New Horizons sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council, which had ruled for millennia through military superiority, had been defeated, not barely, but decisively. The myth of their invincibility was shattered. Councillor Vexler demanded immediate deployment of planet-killer weapons. If we cannot defeat them in battle, we destroy their worlds, turn their colonies into ash. But other Council members hesitated. Using such weapons would make them the monsters they claimed humanity was. Several species threatened to leave the Council if such weapons were deployed. Meanwhile, Isiel's intelligence network reported that 8 Council species were now in active rebellion. They had seen the battle footage. They knew the Council could be beaten. If humanity could defeat them, maybe others could too. General Hansel's ground forces moved quickly to capitalize on the victory. 3 Council core worlds, tired of the government's oppressive rule, opened their spaceports to human landing forces. The populations welcomed them not as conquerors, but as liberators from Council tyranny. On the world of Vexer Prime, citizens tore down statues of Council leaders and replaced them with images of the Indomitable. On Talos 3, the local government formally requested annexation into the human empire. On Krell 7, spontaneous celebrations erupted in the streets. The Council was collapsing from within. Species that had been held together by fear and military might were now choosing freedom. The empire humanity had built was not just militarily superior, it was ideologically superior. People wanted what it offered: freedom, dignity, opportunity. Empress Nari addressed the empire and its allies. We did not seek this war. It was forced upon us, but we have proven that tyranny can be defeated, that freedom is worth fighting for, that a better way is possible. To all species still under Council rule, you are not alone. Stand up, and we will stand with you.
How the war had turned.
The Council had gambled everything on military victory and lost. Now they faced not just a military defeat, but a political collapse. The galaxy was changing, and there was no going back. 50 years after the banishment, Empress Nari Kim walked through the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers. The hall looked different now. The old throne platforms where Council members had looked down on lesser species were gone. In their place were circular rows of equal seats, arranged so everyone could see each other face to face. No one above, no one below. She was 73 now, her hair completely silver, her face lined with age and wisdom. The war had ended 5 years ago, but the work of building peace had taken much longer. Today was the inauguration of the Galactic Assembly, a new government that would replace the old council. High Chancellor Morden waited near the main entrance. The crystalline being had survived the war, one of the few original council members who had. Age and defeat had humbled him. The proud, dismissive leader who had once banished humanity now stood with shoulders bent, his light dimmer than before. "Empress Kim," he said, his voice like distant chimes. "I want to thank you for allowing me to attend." "This is not just for humans," Nari replied. "This is for everyone. You deserve to see what comes next." They walked together into the hall. Hundreds of species filled the chamber: humans, aliens, beings of every shape and size imaginable. Some had been council members. Some had been slaves. Some had been isolated and forgotten. Now they were all here as equals. Ambassador Siwu Nam stood at the podium, preparing to open the first session. He was young, only 40, but he had spent the last decade negotiating with countless species to make this day possible. Beside him stood Council Representative Yune, the grandson of Admiral Yune, who had witnessed humanity's banishment so long ago. "Representatives of the galaxy," Siwu began. His voice broadcast to billions across hundreds of worlds. "We gather today not to create an empire, but to build something better. We gather to form an assembly where all voices are heard, where all species are equal, where power comes not from military might, but from cooperation and consent." The hall erupted in applause. Nari watched from her seat, not at the center or elevated above others, but sitting among the other delegates. She had refused any special position, insisting that the new government must be truly equal from its very foundation. Premier Jisuhan, elected as the Assembly's first leader after months of debate and voting, took the podium next. She was a human from New Earth, a scientist-turned-politician who had helped draft the new galactic constitution. "The old council ruled for thousands of years," she said. "They maintained order, yes, but at what cost? They stifled innovation. They exploited the weak. They grew arrogant and cruel. We will not repeat their mistakes." She held up a data crystal containing the new constitution. "This document guarantees rights to every sentient being in the galaxy. The right to self-governance. The right to trade freely. The right to develop technology without restriction. The right to explore and settle new worlds. These are not privileges granted by the powerful. These are inherent rights that cannot be taken away." More applause filled the chamber. Nari saw tears on some faces, joy on others. For many species, this was the first time in their entire history. They had been treated as equals. The ceremony continued with speeches from various representatives. A Talvan elder spoke about freedom from taxation. A Drexen scientist talked about unrestricted research. A Korthan warrior described how her people had overthrown their council, appointed governor, and elected their own leader for the first time in 300 years. When it was Morden's turn to speak, the hall fell silent. Many still remembered him as the one who had banished humanity. Some whispered that he should not be allowed to speak at all, but Nari had insisted. Reconciliation meant hearing even those who had wronged you. The crystalline being stood before the assembly, his form reflecting light in rainbow patterns. "I stand before you not as High Chancellor, for that title no longer exists. I stand as Morden of the Crystalline Collective, one voice among many. 50 years ago, I made a terrible mistake. I banished humanity because we feared their potential. We feared change. We feared losing our power." His voice grew softer. "We were wrong. In trying to stop a threat that did not exist, we created real enemies. In trying to maintain control, we destroyed the very peace we claimed to protect. I cannot undo the past. I cannot bring back those who died in the war, but I can stand here and admit the truth. The council failed. We failed. And humanity showed us a better way." He turned to look at Nari. "You had every right to destroy us, to take revenge for the humiliation we inflicted. Instead, you offered us a place in this new order, as equals. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that mercy." The hall was silent for a moment, then someone began to clap. Slowly, others joined in. Not enthusiastic applause, but acknowledgement. Forgiveness was not easy, but it was necessary for healing. Only one being refused to attend the ceremony. Counselor Vexler remained in exile on a remote world, bitter and unrepentant. He lived alone, surrounded by records of the old council's glory days, refusing to accept that the galaxy had moved on without him. In the days following the inauguration, the assembly began its work. The Open Sky Initiative was announced, massive infrastructure projects to connect distant regions of the galaxy. Trade routes were opened. Scientific cooperation agreements were signed. Military alliances were formed for mutual defense against external threats. The human empire officially dissolved. The 47 human-controlled systems became independent members of the assembly, each with its own government, but still cooperating closely with Earth and each other. Admiral Rue retired, his mission complete. General Hansel became a teacher at the new Galactic Military Academy, training soldiers from dozens of species. Empress Nari spent her final years visiting worlds across the galaxy, witnessing the fruits of the peace she had helped create. On Tolvos, she saw human and alien children playing together in integrated schools. On New Shanghai, she watched as scientists from 12 species worked side by side on a project to cure a devastating plague. On her 80th birthday, she returned to Earth for the last time. Her health was failing, and she knew her days were numbered. The leaders of the assembly threw a celebration in her honor, but she asked for something simple instead. A quiet gathering in the gardens where her mother had once walked. Admiral Yoon's grandson, now Ambassador Yoon, visited her there. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Nari asked him. "Sometimes I wonder if we should have just accepted the Council's judgment and stayed isolated. The war cost so many lives." "The Council would have eventually attacked anyway," Yoon said. "They feared change too much to leave us alone. At least this way we were prepared. And look at what came from it. Look at what we built." Nari nodded slowly. "My mother died believing her dream had failed. She never got to see this. Never got to see humanity accepted as equals. She saw you become Empress," Yoon reminded her. "She saw the Empire rise. She knew what was possible. That was enough." 3 months later, Empress Nari Kim passed away peacefully in her sleep. The entire galaxy mourned. The assembly declared a week of remembrance. Ships across hundreds of worlds lowered their flags to half-mast. Her funeral was attended by representatives from every member species. Premier Jisoo gave the eulogy. Nari Kim was born into a world that had been rejected by the galaxy. She could have grown bitter, angry, vengeful. Instead, she chose to build, to create, to forgive. She turned humanity's greatest defeat into its greatest triumph. And in doing so, she saved not just humanity, but the galaxy itself from endless stagnation. As they laid her to rest beneath the trees of Earth, a transmission arrived from the edge of explored space. A previously unknown species had made contact, drawn by stories of the Galactic Assembly. They wanted to join, to be part of this new civilization where all were welcome. Ambassador Yoon smiled as he read the message. The work continued. The dream lived on. Years passed. Decades. The Galactic Assembly grew stronger. New species joined. New worlds were settled. Technology advanced. Art and culture flourished. The galaxy entered a golden age of cooperation and discovery. On the 100th anniversary of humanity's banishment, Premier Ji Suhan, now elderly herself, stood before the assembly to give a speech. 100 years ago, the Council told humanity they were not good enough, not worthy, too dangerous. They tried to isolate us, to contain us, to make us disappear. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible. They forced us to become self-reliant, to innovate, to find our own path, and that path led us here. She gestured to the crowded chamber filled with beings from across the galaxy. We did not conquer the Council. We did not destroy our enemies. We simply offered an alternative, a better way. And when given the choice between tyranny and freedom, the galaxy chose freedom. That is the true measure of our victory. In a museum on Earth, carefully preserved, sat the data crystal containing the original council decree of banishment. Next to it was Empress Neri's response, the speech where she had told the council they had made a grave mistake. Millions of visitors came each year to see these artifacts, to remember where humanity had come from and how far they had traveled.